All right, so next up we're going to talk about a relatively minor topic, which is levels of measurement. So this is just further classifying our data. We have, of course, two ways to classify data or variables. We can say, is it quantitative or categorical? And if it's quantitative, we can say, well, is it discrete or continuous data, right? So another way to classify data is to use what's called the level of measurement of the data. And this can help you determine what procedures to use in your statistical analysis. And generally, it's going to be common sense as far as this class goes. This, again, is a relatively minor topic, and you should not expect to see it on the final or more than one question on the test. So we have 4 levels of measurement. The first is called the nominal level. This is when your data has categories only, and those categories don't go in any particular order. So your data can't be arranged in a meaningful order. And usually for this, we're going to use proportions to summarize the data. Okay, so this might be like eye color, right? So eye color, your different colors, don't have really a meaningful order here. You could go in rainbow order, but then you got to throw brown in the mix, right? And hazel. So not so much. So this would be at the nominal level of measurement. Then we have what's called ordinal. And again, this is for categorical variables also, right? But here, our data can be arranged in some sort of order, but differences between data values don't mean anything. So this is common with what's called the Likert scale, which is common with surveys and in psychology, like rate your level of agreement with the following statement. So you might have strongly agree, agree, neither agree nor disagree, disagree, or strongly disagree, right? So there, those responses have an order to them, from strongly disagree to strongly agree, or vice versa, or rate your level of agreement on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. All of those go in order, but really, what's the difference between a 4 and a 5, right? And you can't really say anything there, right? So that's your ordinal level. This tells us about relative comparisons, right? Because strongly agree is greater than somewhat agree, okay? But it doesn't tell us how big the differences are. What is the difference between, how much difference is there between strongly agree and somewhat agree? We can't really say. All right, so generally ordinal data should not be averaged, but it does happen all the time. But it really shouldn't. Okay, our last two levels of measurement are interval level, and this is going to be for quantitative variables or quantitative data. Here, the differences between two data values have some sort of meaning, but our data does not have a natural zero starting point. A natural zero starting point means that a response of 0 means an absence of whatever it is being measured, none of the quantity, okay? So temperature is your primary example of data that would be measured at the interval level, because you can say, the difference between 1 degree Fahrenheit and 2 degrees Fahrenheit has meaning, has scientific meaning, but 0 degrees Fahrenheit does not mean an absence of temperature, right? It's kind of an arbitrary 0. It is used for quantitative variables, quantitative data, and really temperature and maybe year is about the only examples I've ever found for this one. More common is ratio level for quantitative data. Here your data has a natural 0 starting point. So like if I'm measuring height, a height of 0 would mean that you're flat, right? That you are flat, Stanley. So differences between your data values mean something, but also the ratios mean something. So here, if I say, hey, I've got $3, you've got $1, right? I have $2 more than you, right? So that difference has meaning, but also the ratio, my $3 to your $1, I have 3 times as much money as you do, right? That ratio has meaning. So if both things have meaning, then you're at the ratio level. This doesn't work for temperature because 2 degrees Fahrenheit is not twice as hot as 1 degree Fahrenheit. Okay, that's not the way temperature works, unless you're dealing with Kelvin, which is an entirely different beast. Okay. So what level of measurement for each of these, right? We've got voltage measurements at my house, right? Well, if there's no voltage, if that's the measurement, that would mean I got no electricity there. And so this should be at the ratio level because it is quantitative, right? Voltage is quantitative, and a voltage, it has a natural zero. A natural zero. And ratios make sense, right? A 240 volt is twice as much as 120. Okay, company names that produced movies last year. So this is categorical, and so we have a choice of nominal or ordinal. There is no order to our company names other than alphabetical, which, you know, that's just kind of arbitrary. So we would say nominal. Years in which a random sample of movies were released. Now here, we're going to have to say interval, right? Because it is kind of quantitative data, but it does not have a natural zero. Year 0 was kind of arbitrary, right? Because time, it's not like time started in year 0. It started before that. So this one is going to be interval. And what about the highest degree conferred on an individual? So high school, bachelor's, master's, etc. So again, this would be categorical, but there is an order to the responses. So that means we are looking at ordinal. Ordinal. Can't spell. And let's try it one more time. Ordinal. There we go. Yes, that's why I'm in math. Time of day measured in military time. So this one, the question is really, does it have a natural? So it's quantitative, but I would argue that 0-100 hours, when we're talking about time of day, is kind of an arbitrary, that's midnight, is kind of been arbitrarily decided. It doesn't indicate an absence of time, unless you want to think of it in terms of how far into the day are we, right? So this one's a little, depends on the application. So I'm going to kind of say that it doesn't have a natural zero, and so we're going to say interval. Now, this is different from if it was time for elapsed time. Elapsed time will definitely be ratio. Okay, volume of water used by a household in a day. So again, it's quantitative. It does have a natural zero. And so we are going to talk, it's going to be at the ratio level of measurement. All right, so that's it for this one. A little bit too long for it. I apologize.